It's 2024, the tech industry is changing faster than ever. We've got the rise of AI, entry-level jobs getting more and more difficult to come by, and a lot of you are asking the question, should I be learning Python or should I keep learning it if I already know it? Now, given that this is a Python-focused channel, I want to help answer that question today. I want to break down who should learn Python, who shouldn't learn Python, and if you're not going to learn it, what you should focus on to stay competitive in today's market. So with that said, let's get into the video and discuss the truth about learning Python in 2024. So first things first, I can make a lot of arguments for learning Python and a lot for not learning Python, but pretty much all of these come down to your goal. So before we go any further in the video, pause and genuinely ask yourself, why are you learning how to code? Why does Python interest you in the first place? What is your goal from learning a language like this or learning any language? Do you want to get a job? Is this just for a hobby? Are you doing it for fun? Are you doing it to improve your critical thinking skills? Doesn't matter what the answer is, but you need to know that before you can really determine if Python is the right language for you. Now, regardless of what language you're trying to learn, it is important to keep up with the trends in the tech industry, and a great way to do that is with our sponsor, Daily.dev. Daily.dev is completely free and over 500,000 developers use it every single day. It gives you up-to-date information on trends in the tech industry and a tailored news feed that covers really everything you'd want to know about various languages, technologies, industries, you name it. I've been using it for the past few weeks now, and I have to say it's pretty cool. It acts as a browser extension as well as a mobile or web app, and I have it configured to open every single time I open Chrome so I can really quickly browse the newsfeed. The tech industry is just changing so quickly, and having a snapshot of all the news that's important to me has been really insightful. In fact, I've actually seen a few of my videos popping up in the feed. Daily.dev lets you bookmark posts for later, view quick TLDR summaries, search and view collections where Daily.dev aggregates and summarizes all of the sources about important trending topics like the previous OpenAI leadership wars. When you sign up, you can choose any of the topics that are important to you and then start browsing through all of the relevant topics and bookmark any of the ones you want to read later. You can get started with Daily.dev today completely for free by clicking the link in the description and stay up to date on the ever-changing tech industry. So let's begin with a few important facts about the Python language, and then I'll talk about who should learn it and who shouldn't, and I think you might be surprised what my recommendations are. Now, the first thing you need to know about Python is that it is extremely popular, and it has been for many, many years. Now, that's because it's very flexible, it is a general purpose programming language, and that means if you learn the language, you can create a large variety of applications. That doesn't mean Python is the best for creating all different types of apps, but having Python under your belt really gives you a flexible language that lets you create a lot of different things. It's also very easy to learn, it's beginner friendly, and a lot of people will go to Python as their first language because of those features. It's not very intimidating, and people can get a lot of confidence in the language pretty quickly, which can propel them into other programming languages. So with that in mind, who should learn Python? Well, the first group of people I recommend learn Python are those that are complete beginners that don't really know where to start. If you're struggling picking a language or a framework, you don't know the area you want to dive into, then I'd recommend just starting with Python because it's relatively simple, there's tons of resources online, it's very flexible, and you can make a lot of things with it, and you'll learn it pretty quickly compared to a lot of the other options. This way, you're not going to be wasting your time going through a ton of different options or learning a language that you may never use. Python is always going to be usable to you, and once you learn it, it's really easy to switch over to another language. Now, the next group of people that I recommend learn Python are those that are interested in machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, or research-heavy tasks. Almost all of those fields require Python, and that's the primary language used in them, and most of the popular frameworks and libraries for those type of fields are written in Python. So if you are interested in that, then definitely just go and learn Python. You don't need to be a complete expert, and a lot of the time is going to be spent learning the specific frameworks and modules that will help you achieve the tasks that you're trying to complete. For example, you want to build a machine learning bot, you want to interact with some different open source LLMs, a lot of that's going to be much easier to do with Python than different programming languages. Now, one thing to note about Python before we get too far is that while it is a general purpose language and you can build pretty much anything you can imagine with it, it's not usually the best option for a specific task. What I mean by that is, while you can make a mobile app with Python, and you can make a website, and you can make a game, there are other languages or frameworks that are better suited for building those specific applications. For example, you want to build a AAA game, Python is not going to be the language you go with. You're going to want to choose something like C++ or C# and utilize a framework maybe like Unity or something more complicated than that. The point is that while Python can do a lot of these things, it's not the best for those tasks. So if you know you want to be, for example, a mobile app developer, then go and pick the best language for building mobile apps. That might be Swift, Kotlin, Java, depending on what you're doing. So just keep that in mind. It is general purpose, but again, not usually the best for all of these really specific tasks. Now, with that said, something that Python is really good at is automation and scripting. If you're someone who's more of a hobby programmer, you want to build some scripts to automate your life or do some fun things on the side, definitely choose Python because it's so fast to build those types of applications. Maybe you want to work with Raspberry Pis, you want to build a simple security system, or you want to change the lights on your Christmas tree. Doing those type of things using Python is really quick, and it's really where the language shines. Also, if you want to get into DevOps, if you want to get into back-end development, Python is well suited for those type of tasks, so it is something I definitely recommend learning. And even though you might need to know some other languages, a lot of companies that are hiring, for example, a back-end developer or someone doing some automation or scripting is going to assume that you know a little bit of Python. Now, another great reason to learn Python is if you're going to be doing coding interviews. If you know you're going to be getting into that coding interview style question where you're doing leak code problems and all that kind of stuff on a whiteboard, it's a lot easier to solve those types of problems in Python just due to the nature of the syntax being really simple and the language being probably the closest to English out of most of the other programming languages. It makes it a lot easier for you to write and for your interviewer to understand, and I find that you can get things done a lot faster with the helpful methods and features that Python has compared to various other languages. It also just means that there's less syntax and complication that you have to deal with, and I find you have some less error-prone solutions writing in something like Python that you might have writing in, say, C++ or Java or JavaScript, just due to the nature of the syntax, and again, just how easy the code reads when you're actually writing things out. So definitely something to consider. Now, my last major argument for learning Python is that it's just so fast to learn. So if you are considering learning another language, Python is a great one to add to the list that you can get done in a fraction of the time compared to some more complex languages that we're going to talk about later. With that said, let's now talk about who shouldn't learn Python and my arguments for that. Now we're diving in and talking about why you may not want to learn Python. Now, the first reason on my list is that it just doesn't make you competitive. There's a lot of other higher value languages and skills that you can learn that will make you stand out in the job market, and the reason for that is pretty much everyone knows a little bit about Python. It's a very easy language. A lot of people will use it for just a few weeks and then slap it on their resume. Almost everyone coming out of university has done a little bit of coding in Python, and if that's the only language that you know, you kind of just look like everyone else that has those same languages on their resume. Now, only knowing Python also just doesn't allow you to qualify for a lot of different jobs. There are so many positions that require specialized knowledge in, say, JavaScript or Java or C++ or Go or a wide variety of other languages, and you can be a lot more competitive getting good in one of those than just having this more general Python language on your resume. So if you are trying to get a job, while Python can help you a little bit, I'd say that most of your time is better spent learning a different language where you can qualify for more specialized roles that have less competition. Again, if everyone knows Python and everyone's applying for all those Python entry-level developer positions, it's going to be a lot easier for you if you get good at one specific language and you're competing against a smaller pool of people that have that qualification rather than everyone who knows Python. Now, another reason you may not want to learn Python, or you may want to switch to another language if you're already learning it, is because it's a relatively simple language and it doesn't cover a lot of important programming features. Now, Python is dynamically typed and it is object-oriented, whereas a lot of other languages are statically typed, and if you just know Python, you are missing a lot of fundamentals and important programming skills. Now, that's actually why in things like my programming course with Course Careers, we start by teaching you JavaScript. We could have also taught Python because they're similar in terms of the style of the language, and then after that we immediately go into a statically typed language like Go. The reason for that is so that you cover all of those fundamentals that you miss from a language like Python. You learn about static typing, you learn about concurrency, you learn about pointers, references, etc., and you build a more solid base as a programmer to more easily transition into other languages. So it's fine if you know Python or you want to keep learning it, but I'd recommend diversifying into at least one other language. Highly recommend that that is a statically typed language, so you kind of cover the full spectrum of types of programming languages, and you learn some of those more advanced features that you just don't need to know in a language like Python. Now, another reason you may not want to learn Python, and this is one of the reasons sometimes I dislike working with it, is because it's not a very visual language. What I mean by that is it's very difficult to build graphical user interfaces or visual applications with Python. A lot of times people find it easier or more enjoyable to write code when they can actually see a visual result of what it is that they're doing, and that's why oftentimes I do recommend learning JavaScript, because compared to Python, it's a very visual language and you can very quickly actually see what it is that you're doing and what your code is producing. Whereas with Python, a lot of the times you're kind of stuck to the terminal, you're stuck on the back end, and while you can create UIs and you can create kind of visual applications, it's a lot more difficult, there's more to learn, and it's just not the best for doing those type of tasks. So if you're someone who knows you want to be building visual applications, user interfaces, things you can actually see and interact with, probably skip over Python and learn a different language, maybe like JavaScript. Now lastly, a reason you may not want to learn Python is the slow execution speed and performance. Now this hasn't really been an issue for me in most of the applications that I build, but if you are building something that is highly performant, that needs to work on very specific hardware where you need complete control of the language, memory, what's going on a lower level, definitely do not use Python, because it is very bad at those specific tasks, and out of most of the modern programming languages, it is one of the slowest. So there we go, that is why you should or shouldn't learn Python, and I'll quickly cover what you can do here if you're not learning Python to stand out in today's market and be more competitive. Now, what I would say is that if you want to land a job, which I imagine is most of your goals if you've gotten this far in the video, you really need to focus on looking at what employers actually want today. Now, to do that, you obviously can go through a curriculum maybe where they've curated it to those specific things. For example, I have a course with Course Careers, but if you don't want to do that, what I would recommend is go and look at a bunch of different job postings in areas that you're interested in. For example, if you want to get into front-end web development, if you want to get into AAA game development, whatever it is, go look at companies that are hiring developers and read exactly what it is they want you to have. A lot of people kind of go into this blind, they just trust some random person like me online and watch one video and pick a language. Don't do that. Instead, go read all of these different job postings, see the type of job you would want to have, and see exactly what they're listing as the requirements. Maybe Python is there, maybe Java is there, maybe C++ is there, maybe frameworks or languages you've never heard of are there. Go and find what you want to do and then focus your learning for those specific positions. Don't just look at one, look at 20, 30, 40, 100, curate them and figure out what's popping up the most so that you're going to stand out and have the highest chance of qualifying for as many jobs as possible. That's my recommendation. That's exactly what I teach in my types of courses, and that's how we've curated the curriculum for specifically entry-level developer positions. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.